This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming Kip Brown. Kip was the guitarist for a very underrated late 70s punk band in LA called Shock. And they were probably like one of the first ones that formed. I'm going to find out whether or not that's true. I mean, it seems like they were around before, X and Black Flag and Circle Jerks and so forth. And then he, of course, was the lead guitarist for the Little Girls. He will be my second band member from the Little Girls. I had Karen Meso on this summer. And, it's the 40th anniversary of their album, Thank Heaven. And they have I think it's like an anthology CD/box set called Valley Songs. And it just came out, and I'm going to find out about that as well. Kip, he drives the tour bus on another guest of mine, Pamela Des Barres, rock tours that happen, one Sunday a month. And they have one coming up on Sunday, November 19th. So go to Pamela Des Barres' website. I think it's misspamela.com or something like that. I'll look it up and have the link ready by the end here. And Kip, he's a great guy. It's going to be a great conversation. Oh, it's PamelaDesBarresOfficial.com. That's her website. So I had it before the hour was up. So here is my interview with Kip Brown.
Hello.
Hey, Kip. Welcome to the show. How are you today, sir?
Good, Tommy. How are you? Finally making it happen.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I'm fantastic. This is such a great honor. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. So, going back in time, what age did you start gravitating toward music?
I would suppose that would be when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan for the first time back in '64.
Like
very
so
first
many.
Time. Oh, yeah. That made a big impression on me, for sure. And I was probably about, how old was I? About 7, maybe.
Oh, same age as my dad. My dad was 6.5 going on 7 when he saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and that changed him for sure. Like, God, so many people out there.
Oh, yeah. It was amazing. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I've actually been lucky. I've talked to 3 people who were there that night. Debbie Gendler, the president of the fan club, she was the 13-year-old girl with the black hair who was shown on the monitor. And then the comedy team, Mitzi McCall and Charlie Brill, the husband and wife comedy team. And,
of course.
Yeah, they got a great story. They were getting Coca-Colas out of the machine backstage before the show, and John Lennon obviously saw them. So then he knocked on their dressing room door and was like, "I'll need a Coke for Ringo." And they didn't know who Ringo was yet. So Mitzi was like, "A Coke for Ringo? What's that, a Jewish holiday we don't know about?"
Pretty funny.
It's a true story. True story. Yeah, so was guitar your first instrument?
Yeah, basically, and only instrument so far.
You never had a desire to take piano lessons?
Oh yeah, for sure. And matter of fact, last year I bought an electronic keyboard from my Goodwill locally here, just so I could finally start learning something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are your guitar influences?
Well, George Harrison, the Wrecking Crew dudes, obviously, because I love all those records that they played on.
Yeah.
Dick Dale, big fan of surf music. I love Wally Bryson of the Raspberries, amazing. You name it. I love all kinds of rock and roll,
yeah,
etc. Yeah.
Do you remember the first album you ever bought with your own money?
And honestly, I don't, but it had to have been a Beatle record.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, my mom or dad would buy me like the latest Beatle record at the local Zodi's or Whitefront. Those were some big chain stores out here. And I was always or sometimes my mom would and dad would get me a Beatle album and hide it on Easter, as with the eggs. When we'd go searching, I'd find Rubber Soul out there in the backyard.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
my dad's a huge Rubber Soul fan. In fact, we all are in our family. This is such a great album. Really great.
yeah, I love them all. Love them all.
Oh, yeah.
Beatles were it for me, and obviously, and the Beach Boys too, and then Jen and Dean later. Love all that kind of stuff.
I talked to Dean Torrance, great guy. Have you ever met him?
Yep, met Jan, and the Holly Berries record I released several years ago. Right in the scratch-off groove, I scrawled Jan Berry Rules, just to salute him, because I love his productions.
Yeah. What was the first concert you ever attended?
The first one would be right in my backyard, basically. It was hop, skip, and a jump away from our house. It was this place called the Valley Music Theater, and it was a three bands on the bill. Pure Prairie League. This was in 1972. Pure Prairie League, an unknown guy at the time by the name of Billy Joel. He had one album out at the time, and that was Cold Spring Harbor. And then the headliner was Badfinger. And, when I found out Badfinger were coming to my neck of the woods, and this was after Bangladesh, like about a year later, I was just like beside myself. Had to go. And there was a time I wasn't driving because I was too young, but I had a Stingray bike. And I remember riding my Stingray to outside the venue, because I was I'm going to this show tonight. It's going to be awesome. And then there, walking up the street with a bag full of groceries from the local 7-Eleven, was the drummer for Badfinger. And I was like too shy, so I didn't say hi. And God knows what I could have done. I could have gone backstage, watched a sound check, but I didn't know anything about that back at the time. But couldn't believe it. These guys were in my neck of the woods.
Billy Joel and Badfinger, that's like John Cougar Mellencamp and Kiss, because that did happen. He opened for Kiss.
Yeah, but you know what? Badfinger were having problems when they were touring with equipment and all that. And so that night, Billy Joel kind of stole the show from him. He was all over the place, just, running all around. This theater was a circle in the round. So the audience was all around the stage, and so he would go running from one side to the next to the back, and he kind of stole the show, actually.
Yeah, he actually experimented with heavy metal before he went solo. He had a band called the Hassles. They were kind of psychedelic, and then they tried to do heavy metal, but they failed at it.
That's right. I know. I've been I sell their records from time to time.
Wow, you got the Hassles?
Yeah, we do. We get them traded in once in a blue moon.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. For those of you people that don't know out there, I used to work at, I'm still working in a record store. I started at a place called Licorice Pizza back in the day.
Yeah.
And then worked for Moby Disc. And now I currently work at a place called CD Trader in Tarzana.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
So, were you in other bands in high school before Shock formed?
No, before Shock, there were garage bands. We just played cover songs. One of them was named Camco, and that was just because the drums were made by Camco. So we already had the name of the band on the drums. And then we took first initials of our last names, which was Brown, that's me, our drummer, Tom Abel, Timothy Lane on bass, and Brian Lane on guitar. So we call ourselves Balls.
Balls.
Yeah. And I have tapes of those rehearsals. It's just really fun to listen to after all these years.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I can't listen to a lot of stuff I've done. I just hear my voice, and I hear my dad's voice when I listen to it. I'm like, oh, God, I could have done that so much better at anything. I recorded some comedy stuff when I was in high school. I can't listen to it.
Well, but it's fun. I hear us as really young. We were still in high school. So just hilarious. We thought we were the Beatles,
Yeah.
And you invite the girls over to watch, and it's the girls. Just like the Beatles would do.
Yeah.
It's the girls. Yeah.
So when you guys formed Shock, what was that, 1976?
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you guys were probably the earliest punk band in LA because a lot of them started like in 77 or 78. You guys were like
We were one of the first.
Yeah.
Slash magazine did a family tree of punk rock in LA, and we were on the top with I think the Weirdos and forgot who else, but yeah, we were one of the first.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, because a lot of the guys that came later were like X and Black Flag and Circle Jerks and Surf Punks and Fear and Alice Bag, the Dickies.
That's right. Well, shout out to Shock's lead singer Paul and bass player songwriter Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who might be listening to this one day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Germs, they were great. I talked to Nicole Panther about when she managed them and stuff.
You're right.
Yeah, did you know Darby Crash?
I didn't know him. I'd see him around town.
Mm-hmm.
I first saw him when he was Bobby Pinn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of those people, they change their name, once they get a little bit, of infamy or notoriousness.
Yeah. I saw Pat Smear a couple of years ago. Yeah, he's a really cool dude. Seen him over the years.
Yeah. Did you guys go on the road much?
No, the only thing we ever did, we did two trips to San Francisco to play the Mabuhay Gardens. And we were from LA, so we got top billing. It was pretty cool.
That's my hometown. Did you guys see the Dead Kennedys?
No, I never did.
Yeah, my dad grew up with the original drummer, 6025, Carlos Cadona, and when they were 14, they snuck into a movie theater to see Dirty Harry and Fritz the Cat.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a huge highlight for my dad. It's like me and the Dead Kennedys drummer,
Yeah.
You guys opened for the Ramones, right?
Yeah, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, 1978.
Wow. That was like when Road to Ruin came out?
I think so. They were in the middle of doing Rock and Roll High School, the movie.
Yeah.
And instead of when they took a Christmas break, instead of going back home to New York, they decided to stay in LA. So what can we do on those days off? Well, we'll play the Whiskey. And we were fortunate enough to open for them those two nights. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, I met Marky about 4 years ago at Monsterpalooza, the HorrorCon in LA. There's two of them a year, and every time I walked by his table, there's Ramon songs playing over and over again.
Yeah, they were incredible. I mean, really big influence on us too,
Oh yeah, and I think back then, everybody was influenced by each other, like in their peer circles.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we all wore leather jackets.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was in part by the Ramones. We also loved the early Beatles when they wore leather jackets. So, yeah.
They were into the Beatles and the Beach Boys and just any kind of
Oh yeah.
60s garage rock. Probably Paul Revere and the Raiders and the Seeds and all that stuff.
Of course, yeah. Girl groups.
Oh yeah, the girl groups because they did "Baby I Love You" and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now that first album, "I Want to Be Spoiled" and "This Generation's on Vacation," those are great songs. Where did they come from? Were they just like jam songs?
Well, first it was an EP, 3 songs, and it was a 7-inch EP on red vinyl, and the songs were all written by Steve, our bass player. Yeah, he wrote them all. We did a 4-song session. 3 of them made the record, and the 4th one just stayed in a box up until I produced this album a few years ago called Shockproof. It's like a best of on vinyl. Yeah. So that came out on that finally. But yeah, it's an EP. Yeah,
those are pretty good songs. In hindsight, though, were you disappointed that you guys didn't end up in the decline of Western civilization?
Yeah, we broke up too soon,
Yeah.
Broke up in early 79. But we also weren't part of the clique, a lot of the punk rock bands, they kind of had an attitude towards some of the other bands. And because we started so early, a lot of the newer punk bands didn't like us as much.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but, image problems, I think. But but guess what? Guess what's coming out in about 2 weeks? Cherry Red Records in England has a box set coming out on a 5 CD box set. It's called Blank Generation, a story of U.S./Canadian punk, and it's Aftershocks, 1975 to 81. And they put Shocks, This Generation's on Vacation, on the record, on the CD. We're on disc 2, and it's like the Ramones, Blondie, Dead Kennedys, you name it, Patti Smith, the Dickies, the Cramps, Richard Hell, Devo, Minor Threat, the Weirdos, the Dictators, the Replacements. They're all on there. And Shock, so that's pretty cool now.
Oh, that is fantastic. Yeah.
And that's due November 17th.
Yeah, because I remember there was that movie, Blank Generation.
Well, it's a Richard Hell and Voidoids, album. And, so anyway.
Yeah, you guys seem like you had your shit more together, because a lot of those punk bands, they just had an attitude of like, fuck my parents, I'm gonna be who I am.
That's the thing. We all had day jobs, and we all rehearsed. We rehearsed like 4 days a week, and so we rehearsed an awful lot. And as a matter of fact, when Brendan had that Mask reunion show in 2007, maybe, at the Echo. We rehearsed. We rehearsed for that reunion, and a lot of people came up to me after our set and said, "You guys were really tight, man." And a lot of these other bands weren't as tight. So I was like, "Wow, well, thanks, man. Nice to know that it showed."
Yeah, it's always disappointing, like when I got into stand-up comedy, I found out pretty quick that comedians are just bitter, sad, assholes and stuff. And I was just like, where's the guy that I see on stage? I like that guy,
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're proud of all of our stuff we did in Shock, so.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's pretty good music. So I had Karen on this summer, and
you're right. I listened to that.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, we loved having that conversation. So, how did your involvement come to be with the Little Girls? I know she told me, but I forgot.
Well, so Shock hit a bump, and there was some inner friction in the band, and so I left the band in early '79. And took a break, went back to Canada with my family to visit some relatives. And when I came back, it was like, I want to play again. So my friends, Sandy, Nancy, we knew this guy named, there was a guy that worked at Licorice Pizza named Vince. And they invited me to come to see his band with them. So we went to the Troubadour and saw this band called Little Girls. Mm-hmm. And I'm in the balcony just watching this, and they're having fun on stage, and the songs are catchy as hell. Mm-hmm. And I just said, wow, this is pretty cool. And I wanted something fun, because it was getting kind of a drag in later days of Shock. We were all it was pretty depressing for a while, but just a brief time. But I needed something fun, and the girls came up with Vince, and we all said hi. And I told Vince, I said, if you guys ever need a guitar player, let me know. And then I don't know, a few months later, I met the girls, and next thing you know, I'm in the band. So I just fell in love with the songs and their fun, playful attitude on stage. So.
And you probably met way nicer, other bands, besides the punk people, too.
Well, yeah, the punk scene was changing. It was a lot more like the Black Flag and all that, and thrashing around in the audience and stuff. I don't know. I wasn't into that as much.
Yeah, it was an interesting time, too, because, male bands were getting female lead singers, and they were writing neo-feminist pop songs with a silly twist, i.e. Patty Donahue and the Waitresses, or even the B-52s and stuff like that. And, it was pretty cutting edge. Liam Sternberg produced the first album, Thank Heaven, and Ed Stasium engineered it. That had to have been a huge honor, because he worked with the Ramones.
No. Did you say Liam? Who did you say?
Liam Sternberg. He produced the album, right?
Well, it was Liam and Ed Stasium.
Oh, okay.
And Ed Stasium's the one that did the Ramones.
Okay, I'm repeating what Karen told me. I remember
so
that.
Ed Stasium engineered the early Ramones stuff and later produced them.
Right.
And played guitar on a lot of their things that uncredited. So a lot of those little lead guitar bits on Ramones records, that was Ed a lot of times. But Liam Sternberg, he still had a good credit. He produced Rachel Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Rachel Sweet had a bunch of hits. She was a pop singer. And so we got involved with them through our manager, Toby Mamus, who had a pretty good resume himself with Blondie and the Runaways and Joan Jett, John and Yoko, etc. So we met those guys and did the album with them. And so that's that. And there's a new CD that came out too with all of those tracks from that album.
The Valley Songs, right?
And it's called Valley Songs. It's on Playback Records, which is an Australian company, but it's distributed in in the US as well. 26 songs, 28-page booklet, and it's, if I don't mind saying so, it's pretty damn good. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's been out for a while now, like a month or so.
It just came out 2 weeks ago, and it ran out in LA. It ran out on Amazon. They were out of them. I think they just got a new shipment finally, and we're finally going to get a shipment probably in about a week. But yeah, it sold out. So that was pretty darn cool.
Wow, that is cool. Yeah, I mean, that's the power of albums. I mean, albums are coming back. You know, I think a lot of people are just tired of, you know, not being able to find certain things online anymore, you know?
Right. This is CD only. This is a CD only. And it's the only way you can get these songs right now. Plus, I put 2 Hollyberry songs on there. And Michelle's got a song on here that she did with Jonathan Paley. And then there's a rare track by Rudy and the Valentinos, which is a guy that owned a shop on Melrose. And it's kind of a dance song and from the 80s, I believe. And he had the girls sing background harmonies on it.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, Karen said you guys didn't get to go on American Bandstand or Solid Gold, but you guys were on some show on USA Network.
Yeah. Oh, God. I knew my memory would fail me. Yes. Oh, God. Yeah, I was on USA Network, and it was us and the Dream Syndicate.
Oh,
and
awesome.
The Dream Syndicate, it's kind of coincidental and ironic. Steve Wynn of the Dream Syndicate and I used to work together at Moby Disc back in Sherman Oaks in the early days. Briefly, but we worked together.
Yeah, they're from that Paisley Underground scene with the Bangles.
That's right.
Yeah, did you see?
God, what is that? Oh, okay, I remember the show now. USA, it was called Hot Spots.
Oh, okay. Hot Spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think around that time, you know, they were a small network. I know that Todd Rundgren did, like, the first concert for USA Network, like, in 1982 or something.
Mm-hmm.
With the Utopia.
These are the early days. We filmed it at Club Lingerie on the Sunset Strip.
Oh, wow. Did you guys play the Whiskey in the Roxy?
As far as Little Girls, no. Shock, yes. Little Girls, we played the Roxy. We opened for Billy Idol.
Oh.
And we did 2 nights there with Billy Idol. And I believe that's one of the nights that Bette Midler came backstage to say hi.
Nice.
She knew our then manager, apparently. And I was told that she was just jogging by. And she had no makeup on. And she was in a jogging outfit. And she saw her name on the marquee and decided to come on in and go upstairs and say hi.
Yeah, she would have attracted too much attention if she was all glamoured up.
Maybe. Anyway, she's real sweet. Nice of her to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very nice. Yeah, and she also mentioned that the Bus Boys played with you guys.
Yes, we played with the Bus Boys at down Redondo Beach, Huntington Beach. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the club, but pretty historical club right across from the pier. That's
when they were doing The Boys Are Back in Town and Downtown.
They were really tight. These guys were tight. And they used to rehearse, I think, in the same place we did in the valley here called Uncle Studios. Hi, Scott Walton. Hi, Mark Walton. So they were pretty tight, and the songs were catchy. And Actually, one of their songs is one of my all-time surf favorites, like Jen and Dean almost. They did something called Soul Surfing in the USA. I love that. It's from their second album called
nice.
American Worker. Yeah.
I gotta check that song out. I never heard that one. You guys opened for the Pretenders. How was that experience?
Pretty amazing. We felt like rock stars because we had a dressing room that was stocked with food and drinks, and we played 2 nights with them. And it's right after James Honeyman Scott and Pete Farndon, the bass player, passed away of drugs. And they were trying out their new band, so they tried them out of town, which was Arizona. And we got to open for them both nights. And again, that was like a theater in the round as well, like the Badfinger show. Yeah, it was called the Celebrity Theater.
And Bow Wow Wow?
Yeah, Palace Theater in Hollywood. Very famous theater on Vine Street. And it's the same theater that they had the old Hollywood Palace TV show in the 60s. Yeah. And the Rolling Stones made, I think, their first TV appearance there. And Dean Martin introduced them and made fun of their hair and all that. Yeah. But that was the same place. Yeah.
Yeah, what's her name? I talked to Tina Cole from My Three Sons. She was one of the guests.
I met her.
Yeah, she was one of the guests that night. I think her and her sisters, because they had a musical group, and
King sisters,
right?
King cousins, and
yeah. She was like, "Wow, Dean is really edgy tonight."
Yeah, had a crush on Tina Cole. I think it was My Three Sons when she was on that show.
Yeah, real sweetheart,
Yeah.
I love the video for How to Pick Up Girls, and
thank you.
I think she said, I think Karen said that you guys were filming it at this place called the Country Club.
No. The Country Club was the first video thing we did for
Earthquake.
No, we never did a video for Earthquake, surprisingly. No, that was a song called, if I could find my notes here, Left Without a Real Kiss, which is on the CD, the new CD, both the original and the one that ended up on the Thank Heaven album. But the original one is our favorite, and that's the one we lip-synced to at the Country Club in front of a live audience. A lot of our friends and family were there. Mm-hmm. And Karen worked for the producer of this TV show, like Rock and Roll the first 25 years or something like that. So like you had Tina Turner, you had Del Shannon, Janice Ian, all these bands, the Shirelles, they all played, they were all taped and interviewed, and Karen was the assistant to the producer, and he did a favor for her and says, listen, if you want to get your band a video, you just show up here and we'll tape you guys doing one of your songs. So that's what happened, and you could see that on YouTube.
Oh, awesome.
And that was a lot of fun. But that was the Country Club. The How to Pick Up Girls was filmed at this place on Pico, I think it was, called the Music Machine. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the building's still there, but it's no longer a venue. And we did that in an entire day, early part of the day, I should say, because we had to get out of there in time for the nighttime acts. But yeah, we started really early in the morning and filmed the whole video there. It's a low-budget video. Ed produced it with a guy named Bobby. Ed Stasium produced it and directed it, and it's great. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, that cracks me up at the end when each of you picks them up.
Me and Jeff,
yeah.
Hi to Jeff, our bass player, and hi to Steve, our guitar player, out there in Radioland.
Now, I told Karen this. The riff on that song reminds me of "Girl You Want" from Devo. Did that have an influence?
No idea. I never thought so at the time. I didn't put two and two together.
That, that's what it reminds me of.
Okay.
Yeah,
don't remember.
We talked about the Earthquake song that it ended up on the Valley Girl sequel soundtrack. That was so bizarre. It should have been in the movie in the first place.
Yeah, I know. I think how it ended up in the second version is I probably suggested or put me and Toby. Were in contact. Toby was our manager, and we had connections with Rhino Records. I don't remember what led to what, but had something to do with it, I think, maybe.
Yeah. So how did you meet the wonderful Pamela Des Barres?
Through James Dean, really. We both, love James Dean, and but I knew who she was from the GTOs. Kept reading about her in the rock magazines and stuff, and we just ended up on a show together once. Our mutual friend Art Fine had a cable show called Little Art's Poker Party. And we both were on it, and she brought her friend Victor Hayden, who was one of Captain Beefheart's guys back in the day. And yeah, it was awesome. And we just watched it the other day because you could find it on YouTube. Yeah. We watched that show the other day when we were in Indiana, and just to see ourselves 30 years ago or whatever it was. pretty funny.
I did.
But yeah, we had James Dean in common.
Yeah, I did see it. I was like, wow. I mean, they were so young, and they're just, they're like meeting for like the first time or something like that. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's one of my like top favorite icons that I've interviewed. I mean, I just adore her, and I know you guys do the tours. How long have you been doing the tours?
A long time. I can never remember, but it's been a long time, over a decade. Yeah. We got another tour coming up if anybody's interested, if you're in LA, and we always have a couple extra seats in the van, but I think our next tour is scheduled for the 19th of November.
Yeah, I actually mentioned that in my intro because, wanted to help you guys out a little bit there.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, I didn't even know about the tours until just recently, and had I known pre-pandemic, I was going out to LA a lot before the pandemic. I would have gone on one, but hopefully maybe next year I'll get to go. But, yeah, so like, unless it's a secret, can you like break down like what happens during the course of the day when you guys do the tours?
No, not at all. Not a problem. Well, it's a full day. We usually started around 12 noon. And we ended about 5 o'clock, depending on daylight savings or not. And then we take we show them sites from Pamela's book, the I'm with the Band book. And we get out at some of these sites. She reads from the book. People ask her questions. She'll take most questions, and with the break in Laurel Canyon at the Canyon store for lunch and just to hang out. And it's a full day, and people love it. So,
oh, that is so awesome.
There you go.
I can imagine the LA traffic probably gets to you after a while, though.
Well, it depends. Sometimes, because we do them on Sundays, hoping that's like nobody's working as much, So, but it's still pretty crowded in LA and Hollywood.
Yeah.
But we're pros now.
Are there times when you guys have like a full bus, and then times where there's like maybe 4 people?
No, not usually, not lately. Usually they're pretty packed. I think at the most we get like 12 people. We could fit 12 in a van, maybe. I think, yeah. But we had to cancel for a few years due to COVID.
Yeah, and, that was unfortunate.
And I think coming back, maybe we had a not full van. I can't remember, but yeah, it's usually pretty packed.
That's awesome.
And people get along great, and it's like they all become friends.
Awesome. Yeah, do you ever have people come back?
Yes, we've had some people take like 4 tours so far.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of return customers.
When did your love for James Dean start?
It's funny. I was born in 1956, so I was born about 3 months after he died, and I didn't know anything about James Dean until the 70s, early 70s, when I was in high school. And I used to see these commercials because oldies but goodies were making a comeback on the radio, and they were doing these collections on vinyl. And I remember seeing these ads on TV, and they'd show all these 50s iconic things from the 50s, including a picture of this guy with a sweater pulled up around his, nose. And that was James Dean, and I didn't know anything about him. And then this book came out called The Mutant King by David Dalton, and I read that book, and then I just was like, it just sucked me right in, man. And
yeah.
Yeah.
My story is a little bit different. When I was a kid, my mother indoctrinated me into loving Elvis. And my mother had every movie, every merchandise, every book, everything about Elvis. And it kind of drove me crazy after a while. So at my video store, there was this little documentary that was made in the late 70s about James Dean. I eventually rented it years later, and it had like Dennis Hopper interviewed and so forth. And I remember seeing the cover of the box, and I just dismissed him as another Elvis because he had that kind of well-coiffed hair, even though it was blonde. I was just like, I'm going to pass on that. So then I got into Natalie Wood eventually, and she's still my favorite actress from that era of old Hollywood. And I saw Rebel Without a Cause, and I was like, this guy is amazing. And I've been a fan ever since.
Yeah, well, that was the film that did it for me. And back then, no videos. It was just, you had to catch it on TV. So in the early 70s, Rebel Without a Cause was on TV one day, one night.
Yeah. And
I watched that, and I just went, holy cow. And then I go, wait, this was done around L.A., so that was an added bonus because I live in L.A. Yeah. It's like, oh, God, I got to find these sites, This is cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a tribute to James a couple of years ago for his 90th birthday. I talked to Lou.
Oh, very nice. Lou Bracker?
Yeah, Lou Bracker.
Yeah, what a sweet guy.
Very sweet guy. I hope I didn't piss him off too much. Like near the end there, I asked him. I didn't know that he disliked Dennis Hopper and Nick Adams, and he didn't approve of Dearly Departed tours. I was like, oh God, I gotta shut my mouth now because I'm just asking questions. I didn't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt he was pissed, but he's a funny guy too. He could be really funny. We have a thing when his book came out, I had him sign it, and every time I see him, I have him sign the book again wherever we are, and so my copy has like about 10 signatures of Lou.
Yeah,
and he's a good sport, and he always he writes something funny in there or whatever. Yeah, it's good to see him.
Yeah, and Pamela didn't. I think she mentioned to me that there's like a James Dean festival in Iowa every year or something.
Not Iowa, Indiana.
Indiana,
where he's from. We were just there. Pamela and I went in September, and we go every year usually. And it's a ball. We just love it there. And our friends Dave and Lenny, in the James Dean Gallery, they put us up there, and it's like Mayberry. It's like small town USA. And just everybody's so nice there. And, during the festival, all these friends of ours now, they're friends now, they come from all around the country and Japan, even a girl named Naomi. So, yeah, it's just it's a good time every year we go.
Yeah, but maybe eventually in the future I'll get to go. I got to do some traveling at some point. I interviewed Sarah Rush, who played Corporal Rigel on Battlestar Galactica the other day, and her dad was James Dean's cousin.
What's her dad's name?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you, but I'll find out and I'll let you know. But she told me her dad was very concerned about her going into acting because of James, and he never talked about him at all when she was growing up. Like, I think it was one of those things where she found out later in life, that she's really related to him. Yeah, I thought that was very interesting and also kind of touching too.
I've been doing a book. It's kind of a running gag with all my friends and family that I'm doing a book on James Dean, and I've been working on it for like 30, 40 years now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it'll come out one of these days.
So you mentioned before that you work in the record store business. Like, how do you feel now that vinyl is starting to make a big comeback?
Well, it's been coming back for a long time now. We've been selling vinyl for a decade. As long as I've been there, it's been crazy.
Because I've only become aware of it like lately because I see people posting, I bought a turntable today, and I'm like, really?
Yeah, no, I mean, I deal with it daily, and we sell like crazy, vinyl like crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever work at the Tower Records in L.A. back in the day?
Never did. I mean, I worked at Licorice Pizza. I worked at Moby Disc. I worked at Rockaway Records. I worked at my own store called Ear Candy.
Mm.
I had that for about 10 years. And I work at CD Trader now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because I talked to Dan Navarro, him his songwriting partner Eric Lowen. They worked at that Tower Records in L.A. and they worked with Mickey Steele, the Runaways, and the Bengals.
Sure.
Yeah. Back then it was such a smaller community. There was no internet. Everybody knew each other back then. You know, I romanticize the past of Hollywood. You know, it was so romantic in hindsight.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's good. When I was going to the Whiskey A Go back in the early 70s, I mean, I was in high school and I started going to the Whiskey, and just I would see groups like Iggy and the Stooges, the New York Dolls, Status Quo.
Oh.
So I mean, and back then I could just walk upstairs to the dressing rooms back in the day. Saw Silverhead. That's actually where I first saw Pamela. She was dating Michael Des Barres, the lead singer for Silverhead. And I took a picture of both of them as they got to the dressing room. I had a little camera I used to sneak in with flash bulbs and everything. And so I took pictures of them. And it was just so great. And I got to meet Status Quo, and I was a huge Status Quo fan. And they let me just hang with them in the dressing room, and I took pictures. And
I've gotten into Status Quo recently because I knew their big hit "Pictures of Matchstick Men," which was a psychedelic song. But then when they turned more to blues, I'm like, damn, these guys are pretty good. That Pile Driver album, oh, it's great.
Yeah, boogie rock, man, it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like a Foghat and a lot of those bands and stuff. Savoy Brown.
Right.
And
I like Foghat too.
Oh yeah, Wishbone Ash.
I never got into Wishbone Ash.
Yeah, they're kind of an acquired taste because you don't know what they are. They're either blues, progressive rock, or hard rock, or a little bit of everything. You know, they're eclectic. Is what they are. You know.
Yeah.
I see on Instagram you got all these pictures you've taken with pop culture icons. Everyone from Weird Al to Maureen McCormick to Sherman Hemsley, Shirley Jones, and another guest of mine, Susan Cowsill. Like, what do you go to these meet and greets and stuff?
A lot of times it's just like they might come in the store. Like Shirley Jones just came in the store one day, or I'll be at a concert like Cowsill's. I've always been a Susan Cowsill fan, and I went to one of the Happy Together shows in Thousand Oaks. And I waited afterwards and got a picture with her afterwards. Yeah, I just like doing it, and people enjoy it. My most popular photos that I've posted on my Facebook page are usually Maureen McCormick from when we were graduating high school in '74.
Oh, you went to high school with her?
Well, yeah, but she was filming for most of the year.
Yeah.
I had a big crush on her. I think most guys did.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she started showing up at the later period of my senior year. I'd see her in the senior quad area during lunch break. And that's because the show had been canceled. So she started going to school again. And she was there on graduation night. And I said, Dad, take a picture, please. And so we had that picture. And then I was backstage at the Whiskey for Dick Dale when he played there. And Keith Moon just shows up. He was a big surf music fan. And that picture's a real popular one.
Yeah. Susan, she's one of my favorite interviews I've done this year as far as icons go. I've always loved her voice, and I love the Cowsill's music in general. I talked to Bob about 3 years ago during the pandemic and stuff. Yeah, they're awesome people. And
huge Cowsill's fan.
Yeah, they're so underrated too. And they've been doing the Happy Together tours every summer with the Turtles and Mark Lindsay and so many people. Yeah, I'm gonna catch them one of these days and stuff. I
got Mark Lindsay photo. He came in my record store once, Ear Candy.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh my God, Mark Lindsay, unbelievable. And then later on I met Paul Revere.
Oh yeah. Those guys, they had the same management as the Byrds, and the Byrds hated them. Like I heard David Crosby say in an interview, he called them, what was it called, Paul Paul Reardon in the Rear Doors or something like that.
Jealousy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's David Crosby for you. Do you know Merrill Fankhauser?
Don't know him. I know who he is. I used to see. We had all these mom and pop record stores in the early '70s, and I remember this one place on Ventura Boulevard. They had boxes and boxes of records on the floor, and it was most of the records were this band called Moo. And I was like, I should have bought them at the time because now they're worth a lot of money if you get a sealed copy. But there was all these copies of this band called Moo, and that was Merrill's band. You know?
Yeah, Merrill. I've talked to him this summer. He's a guitar virtuoso. He can do surf. He can do blues. He can do jazz. Anything.
Yeah, I bet.
He's very, very underrated. He's just a really talented guitarist. So Sunday, November 19th, is the tour with Pamela, and the Little Girls Valley Song CD is available where?
You could get it at Amazon. Just got a news shipment in, so you could get it from Amazon. You could get it from Amoeba Records in Hollywood. You could get it at CD Trader where I work in Tarzana. I'll sign it for you if you want. And Freak Beat Records in Sherman Oaks, they have it. You know, it's most of the online sites like Collector's Choice, Barnes and Noble. I think they all carry it as well.
Yeah, and the Blank Generation, you said, is that Amazon?
Blank Generation is coming out November 17th. That'll be on Amazon. Yeah, I think Amazon would probably be the best bet for most people.
Fantastic. Kip, thank you so much for finally making this happen, and I hope you enjoyed the tour on the 19th. And
thank you.
My condolences for your loss, by the way. And yeah, and
you mean my niece?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I hope you have a happy holiday season and be safe out there.
All right, my friend. Thank you, Tommy.
My pleasure, sir.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Kip Brown. Ain't he a cool dude? Oh, my God, that was a great conversation, you know. And great guy. Go see him and Pamela on the tour November 19th if you're in Los Angeles, and go get those CDs. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.